our liaison out at the college and have her PSD. And he has been doing a lot of work with our district. Meal nights, he hosted meetings to our summer program. We had a tremendous turnout for students here during the summer, our learners, students in special education, and so forth. And he got a grant from, I believe, the federal government. There's some federal government grants that are happening up there to support our students learning how to play drums and run the drums together and how to hold that. So our teacher at Kings Valley University for Special Education is already linked in him. He's doing the summer program. And another one of our teachers already, and we already have scheduled for students to go to the lab over at EST to look and learn about doing the drums and we do that work there. We're super excited. It's for our high school students in special education, and we want to be able to have our students in general education. We also have resources that will go alongside that. It's just a great endeavor. Another one has to do with the summer nights. We will continue those this year. To have a good department our things and different parties. Yes, that's and a lot of times they have to be speakers, and we talk about college, and we talk about just as a couple of things in terms of some things that have been happening in the district that student services has been supporting. We've had our leadership for the district that is rolled out for the entire district this year. Specifically our staff that are in classified roles, students, so students can have staff who will have training in terms of like preventative prevention or violent interventions. So those staff who are in transportation, staff in cafeteria, staff who work in the front office, or instructional staff, just across the board. Have the opportunity to do modules, and then they'll have the opportunity to do some in-person meetings this year. Super excited! It's the first in the region that that's happened, and LBL has really partnered heavily with us to be able to help make that a success in our region for this year. And then I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about some of our staff. These incredible teams that I get to work with. We have Stetson in the office next door, and so who support the district. We also have an incredible special education staff, our counselors are just absolutely amazing. Seniors and our staff and all our staff across the board. And then the last I just wanted to note is that we have were granted last year what's called the Multi-Service System Support Grant, which is a federal grant that comes out of University of Kansas, and they will be supporting our administrators, and we'll be doing that work with some training and learning for us as well that will be pointed out to our teachers. If you have any questions, you can want to ask it.
Thank you.
Would you email all of us, whoever, the dates for the CIAC meetings as well as the ELO?
I will be more than honored to do that. Thank you very much. I'll send this out to you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really love
Thank you.
And then I'm going to put on my, well, first of all, we can't neglect that Kings Valley is a member school within our district. Athena couldn't be here this evening, but always want to take opportunities to recognize that Kings Valley is a part of who we are. The next thing is I am Susan Halliday. I'm the interim principal of the Philomath Academy. And the board knows that, and the board's not happy necessarily that that's my role. But a couple reasons for the determination of that role is with the retirement of Dan Johnson, not wanting to be able something like Eric Beasley, welcome to Philomath, but we're going to take half of your assistant principal and make that person be the halftime principal at the Philomath Academy. Mark Henderson, we're glad that you hired Mike Hood, but we're going to take half of him to be the principal at the Philomath Academy. Steve Bell, we're real glad that Jamin Ellingson is with you, but we're going to take half of him and we're going to put him at the academy to be able to be the principal at the school. Couldn't do it. And so the determination has really given us the I've taken the opportunity rather than blanket assigning to be able to watch so we can see what the best fit is and how that works for us. There have been changes in this year to the Philomath Academy in that sometimes to the chagrin of the staff that I work with who are awesome, we're really trying to scale back into a place of what do we do and what do we do well? And let's make sure that we do that very well and grow from there. So we've really truncated some of the hours that students are present here. You'd not believe how busy this place is in the morning. When this room is just hopping with students and a couple of teachers that are working with them. But we're listening for what is it that kind of sets it apart without trying to be everything to everybody for which you're never successful. And so we're doing a lot of listening to be able to make sure we know what we're doing. One of the things that I've been taught well that I'll share with you about the Philomath Academy is the common mantra is, well, oh, that's just the online school. That's just the online school. And what the staff is, it is not just an online school. It is not just an online program. What we have is there are some online programs in which you set them up and what students are asked to do is answer multiple choice questions, answer true false questions, and that's what generates a grade for a student and a credit. And I understand when people say, well, that isn't the same as sitting in a classroom. I don't have to do science experiments. I don't have to do math problem solving. I never have to write an essay. Something about the Philomath Academy is every class a student is enrolled in is teacher interacted. So the teachers that are on site that are our staff are giving assignments to students. It's almost like the online is like the curriculum and the foundation. It would be like the reading that was just adopted at the elementary school. If that was an online platform that was the reading curriculum, Apex is like the curriculum that is being used for the academy. But every assignment is teacher directed, teacher administered, teacher feedback provided, corrected, and graded. And so one of the things that they've taught me is we're not just an online school. The entree into COVID at COVID time made it that by necessity. But that's one of the things that we're wanting to dissuade that misnomer that it's just an online school. And so it's a start for being able to get information. It allows me a place to be able to listen and to learn and to be able to have all of us as administrators look collectively about what makes the most sense for schools and programs in service to our kids. And so that's the reason I introduce myself that way. And it's ongoing conversation that we will continue to have. So there you have the Philomath Academy. A couple of other things that I just wanted to put out in terms of my superintendent's report for the rest of it is we will have more of an update next month about Downing Forest. But the thing I need to tell you is the Paul Merriman cross country meet is happening. But the Oregon West Conference Championships for cross country are happening at Philomath. So not only are we having just one meet, we're having two. So we went from having nothing, and there's no way we can make this happen within our district, to having two high school cross-country meets, a viable place where middle schoolers can practice and run their meets, and have that be a place where we went from what are we going to do, to people are excited to be able to be here. So that has been a gift that has involved a lot of work on the part of a lot of people, to be able to pull that together and to be able to help finance that as well. The other piece of the puzzle that we'll be able to come back and share with you has to do with the reforestation plan, if you will, of what's going to happen with the forestry program and what are the plans to rebuild, regrow, reset in terms of where we're going with forestry. So that'll come back. Enrollment, I'm just going to tailspin on what Jennifer has to say, so that I don't say it twice. We have been, as the region has, limping through synergy implementation, which has been really rocky for everybody. And it'll get there, but we're having to work through some struggles. Another new thing for us is the implementation of food service. Bless you. And food service, kids are eating, which is a very good thing. But we're finding out some of the kinks that work along the way, in that things like we don't need a case of cucumbers at Clemens Primary School. We need three cucumbers at Clemens Primary School. And so we're getting to a place of, no, we're not always going to order full cases of things because it will rot before we can ever get there. And so we're working out some key relationships to really be able to continue to refine that connection, and to be able to look at, we're just working out the bugs and the nuances, but the important part is we're feeding kids. The one piece that we don't know yet, and we won't know for a little while, is how much is it going to cost us to be able to pay whatever overage we don't get in revenue for lunch fees for students to eat. Food service is not a money-making opportunity. And so it's a, when do we have, when will we know that, to know what it is we're looking at? But the most important part is that students eat, and students are being able to eat, which is a great thing. The last part that I want to talk about, just to put it on your radar, some things that I'm working on because it's part of our Division 22 standards, has to do with the recent adoption of physical education minutes in the state of Oregon, which say that K-8 students need to have an average of 150 minutes a week of physical education. Not activity, physical education. One of the things that I don't know that it sets us apart, but the conversation that I've attempted to have is to say, we are a district that is also committed to K-12 arts and music as being a very viable learning opportunity and a need for the students. That's always been a love and a commitment of this community. So do we take away music and just double up on PE every day? I don't want to do that because it takes away the goodness of some opportunities that are linchpin for our kids. But we got to do 150 minutes. So those are the conversations that we're having right now about how do we creatively make that happen in a way that doesn't tax the world, meets the requirements, but also allows us to maintain a community and district belief system that has been oh so important. So that will continue to come back because 7th and 8th grade, for instance, we know we've met it. We're good there. 6th grade, that's a problem because there aren't enough hours in the day to be able to make that happen without jeopardizing student opportunity. Same thing is true at our elementary school. Students have PE 2 days a week, and music or art 2 days a week. We can't get to 150 minutes just on that. And so then it's how do we get creative to do that? So those are some things that will come back to you as items we're working on, but the knowledge of the commitment remains in that from what I hear, know, and feel, an arts education and physical education, and I'm a phys ed teacher, through and through. Both of those have their level of importance, and their requirement.
Was it a state requirement
Yes,
or federal?
it is state.
State.
And where this came from, the first iteration of this legislation was in 2007. And it's taken it this long to be able to come to fruition. Former Senator Peter Courtney was the person who started that in 2007. If you think about what was happening in 2007, the onslaught of social media, the onslaught of inactive kids, all those things happened right at that time. And so then the question has become, is it about physical activity and fitness, or is it about physical education? So it's kind of like, how do we meld those together to be able to do what it, I mean, I tried everything, saying we got this many people that are involved in extracurricular stuff and all kinds of things like that, but we will work it out.
Have you talked to the districts about it?
Oh, yeah. And we'll work it out thoughtfully. There are some other districts that don't have a music program, or they don't offer an elective program at a middle school, or sixth graders just don't get an elective, or we're just going to call, well, they can't do it anymore, but we're just going to have teachers do all the recess, and especially at K-5, because general education teachers can teach their own PE and I'm so grateful we have PE specialists, because that is so important for our kids. But there's different ways that folks are looking at it that we really want to be thoughtful in what that means for our general education teachers, for the credibility of our physical education teachers, and everybody in the mix. So stay tuned, because that one's not going away. So, and then I think I'll be quiet, and I want to say thank you to our administrators for showing up. I really appreciate it a lot.
I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
No, don't mind it.
You had mentioned that the in-person hours of the academy have been shortened. What does that look like? Is it still roughly the same number of hours available as a regular academic school day?
They have hours available. Which what we're doing is when we ask the students that come in, we're targeting their coming in the morning.
Okay.
Whereas it had more of a breadth over the course of the day last year. And so, and then after lunch, we're allowing students a place to stay if they want to do study hall kinds of things, so that we're not just saying fly into the community and go. But it's a different way of looking at it. Students can still do the online component or their homework and things like that in the course of an afternoon. So the hours haven't changed. It's just in the way we've structured for those students who are coming physically in.
Okay. I just wanted to make
Nope,
sure because of the bill that was passed around shortened days.
Well, and we already know that we're going to have to communicate, especially with our K-8 folks. Cynthia, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Our K-8 students at the Philomath Academy will probably get letters to say, you've chosen to have your child attend the Philomath Academy, and we'll say it much nicer than this. 9 times out of 10, that means that they don't meet the state-defined definition of a full school day. However, here's what they get. This is what you've chosen. We're just saying you don't meet the state definition at this point in time. And we got to work around it. So here we go.
Okay.
So it's using that letter of abbreviated school day as more of a positive, kind of bring it on. We'll send the letter home because you've made a choice to have your child educated in a way that makes the most sense for them. So, we've been trying to work today, even on the letters, of a positive spin of, you have no reason to feel demeaned or chastised or anything else like that because of the choice that you're making with your student. That really is a full school day when we calculate out all the minutes and the this, that, and the other thing. But we've just got to follow a protocol. Great
And then,
question.
The second one was just to mention that the physical education is under House Bill 3199.
Thank you.
You wanted to read through that. It actually was a reduction of minutes required for grades 6 through 8 from 225 down to 150.
And 225 would have killed us.
And keeping it the same at the elementary, or they call it like upper elementary years versus lower elementary years. I'm like, we don't use upper and lower.
There were some real interesting conversations when that went through, but yeah, thank you for raising that.
Yeah.
3199.
3199. Language around it not applying when certain funding levels don't meet certain funding requirements.
And
So
we're,
that might be something to look at.
yeah. Thank
As
you.
your little friendly House Bill nerds.
All right.
I've read more House bills this year than I think I ever have.
There are a lot of House bills. So thank you. Questions, comments?
Thank you,
Thank
Shane.
you so much, Susan. And you did all that with a cold, so double thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, thank you.
So much.
Have a good evening. Thanks.
Now,
We didn't
hi.
say you could leave. All right, we'll go on to the financial report. Jennifer.
Nobody wanted to say that. Everybody else recognizes that, I wanted to recognize the staff has been scrambling in the last month with last minute new hires, outfitting new classrooms. Technology has implemented some cybersecurity features and share and synergy, and implementing food service has kind of a frenzy this last month. The auditors being the next month, we're sharing the space with the academy and the auditors for a couple of days, so we're all trying to work together. But it's been busy. The phone was ringing off the hook this morning after a food service dilemma, and nobody thought the whole district office was going to be answering questions about food service. So here we go. Trying to figure out. And a bit of a hiccup in our start of the year, but we're making it work because like Susan said, we don't quite know if it's going to cost yet until we get the first one on our accounts. And everybody's favorite subject is enrollment. I put some reports in your packets with enrollment numbers. Enrollment numbers are from the Titan system, which is our food service system, that pulls students from the synergies. It may not be 100% accurate, but it is accurate to the date that I pulled it for you. And it does show a significant increase from where we were last year at the end of the year, even from the beginning of last year. It's much more than what we entered for our estimate membership revenue last December, where we estimated for this year. I contacted ODE and they did open up the membership and revenue estimate, so I have updated our enrollment with current figures. So if and when they recalculate, you could see a difference, but we don't know what that is. I did talk to some local other business managers of other districts and our neighbors to the west. Our neighbors to the east have those increases. So and some of the other smaller districts are just going to say. Neighbors to the east said that we were more than welcome to keep students. So I think they made significant cuts, and so they're not ready to bring back students. They don't just have the there's now growth. You can see from one of the reports with the district transfer students, we have a significant coming from.
20% or something.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Some of those Corvallis home addresses could be within the Pullman School District. I couldn't pull that with the data that I had to see. So we know that some of the fringes are Corvallis students. But I just, I can't see. And some of those inter-district transfer students are historical students that have been here for years. But I couldn't pull that information for it. It was just based on policy. But you can see we have quite a bit coming from our district. While it might help with ADM and say school market, it is also added. We may just have to wait until the fall. They will open up the estimate membership and revenue to all districts if they choose, but OD will only recalculate if there's a significant change amongst the whole state. So we may not know if we have any difference in state school fund until January after the December EM. Fortunately, we're having to spend within our needs what we have. We don't know what any general. We do have initial estimate allocations for some of the big grants, the student investment account, Mission 98, that will go up some. We don't have final estimates.
There's still estimates as of today.
We know that there could be early literacy grant money coming, and we talked about that in our cohort meeting today that but there's no final allocations for that yet either, so I think with late legislative session this year, everything is still in there. So, all that to say, we'll look at how to make this work. Whether it's summer, because that funds. That's one of the things that we use that.
Question, is there a point where we draw the line and don't accept any more out of district?
That's a discussion that the board has to have with the superintendent, and it has to be, I think it has to be a policy.
Our policy has said, we talked about this last year. The policy said, if no decision otherwise has been made by March 31st of the given year, you accept everybody. Because we can't say we like you, we don't like you, in the way that we do that. And so there was kind of a hunch when we talked last year that we might be inundated with kids, but we didn't know that. So we predicted on our own numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I want to come back to the board and have that conversation again next month about how do we want to handle interdistrict transfers. One of a lot of people will, a lot of districts that I've heard of, especially recently, will establish a deadline date that says we will accept interdistrict transfers, anybody up until this point. After this point, we do it based on space availability. And that's
okay, that's legal.
That is legal. And that space availability can change, with priorities to siblings and things like that. And so I want us to think about that and watch that. I don't want us to, I mean, it's nice to have some extra kids. I don't want us to become the next Corvallis or Lincoln County. I think there's a sweetness to the size of Philomath. The other thing we have to think about is our facility capacity and when we how long we have to wait to get into any bonding of any kind. So all of those things come into play, I think, as we do that. The struggle that we're having right now, so I want to engage in that conversation to be able to do that. I'll stop there.
So, when a student transfers in district, their ADM comes with them, but they're still,
It's not immediate.
it fluctuates as well because enrollment changes over that calculation.
But and just where we're at right now is if everybody in the state gains,
It stays where it's at.
the pool is only as big as the pool is. Yeah.
Yeah. I should have done this ahead of time, but do you have an idea of where this is? If we were to say, what were our enrollment numbers in 2019 versus what this is? Are we over where we were to where we were.
You pre-COVID is what you're saying?
Yeah, like the school year leading up to that, because we know that there was a significant drop in enrollment,
We are a bit higher.
a bit higher. Okay, that was what my instinct
good
was.
question.
I didn't look up the numbers. Thank you.
I pulled all that, you guys didn't include it in here, but I can share that with you.
Oh,
Question.
thank you. though.
Because I don't know, new to this, I look at this number at the Fulton Elementary School, 96%, it's just highly concerning. Because I look at the developments happening around this, I don't know, we don't want to come, in my observation, I'm gonna say the developments, those kids are gonna get kindergarten in 4 or 5 years. I just assume that young couples are buying, are moving into these developments. When and how and who to start playing, what happens when, along with the population grows, our elementary school is at 96% right now, and we're building hundreds of new houses.
And that's why we started putting this out here and why Jennifer, we'd asked to be able to include those statistics from that study. That study was done for capacity when, how many years ago it was.
It was just and the start of the whole thing.
Right, so it was, we're gonna have all this construction and Philomath is gonna grow and we're gonna anticipate getting this many more kids. And so that was at a time that we projected higher. Because then the houses were built and we all of a sudden went, okay, where's the kids? Because the kids that we were projected to get at that point, based on the growth in the housing, didn't happen. And so,
It's almost like young couples can't afford it.
Yep.
$150,000 house for some reason. Like,
96% capacity.
Yep.
Number in human population is almost always greater. So what do
well, what were the things that you had said though, that, and I don't know if you, because we projected our numbers based on what a lower birth rate in the state of Oregon is anticipated moving forward. What were the other ones?
Points from the COSA publication. The death rate is higher than the birth rate. Couldn't stay that way. The birth rate for the next 10 years is predicted to be lower, and
Yes, statistics are showing that fewer people are having children.
yeah.
So,
That's how we base our goals based on birth rates. Over the next 5 years.
right.
But
So the other,
on this chart that I looked at your chart, the one that has the enrollments per grade, have you looked at that, which you probably have over, say, 3 years? I look at this and I went, okay, kindergarten. I looked at the kindergarten and first grade kid numbers and then looked at the second and third grade. There's 7 less, but I'm just curious if that trend. I looked at this going to elementary school is already almost max capacity, but kindergarten and first grade are coming in, so I looked at the numbers to see how it's changing. It's dropping by 7, but then I looked down the list at who's might come in from Teens Valley later or something. There's a lot of other kids that are they going to jump in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade and then then we pass.
we usually see the jump in the fifth grade. There's even bigger jump, so you can see that as enrollment increase. We use that as a prediction going through the years, but there is always a jump we can see in history at those grade ones. So it's happened every year, it's always happened, but we're basing our projections this year based on birth rates. Coming in, we didn't think that our class was growing.
right, and the interdistrict transfers are incredible, absolutely incredible.
And the districts need to work. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when the high school was under construction and Clement was here, things had to be moved around and classrooms had to be figured out. So, I mean, not ideal, not the goal. But, and now obviously this is the academy, so this wouldn't be a third or fourth grade classroom, but.
Before we get there,
Mhm.
is that I don't know, is this a school board issue? Is this a facilities issue? I don't know.
it's a facilities committee issue, which when you raised it, we're coming back around to that. The other part of that is that we can't bond until 27. And so what the things that we had talked about would be, do we look at modulars? Do we look at rental? Do we look at just creative space and how we do it? I mean, those are the kinds of things that but we've looked into the purchase of modulars. Do we update the modulars, if that's even possible, that exist over at the middle school? Do we, what do we do in order to be able to make those things happen? But yeah, those are all on the radar. It just it was really interesting when we expected that a number of years ago with the housing developments, and the kids never came. And it was a surprise.
So I have one more question on that. So the out of district is, I don't know, the out of district kids come with state funding. Does that compensate for the lack of property taxes being paid by?
Excuse me.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
So the way the state school fund is calculated,
Mhm.
they do, very complicated, but they do a big pot. They divide it up by median, and they take that amount and they subtract out how much of your property tax comes in for your district. The remainder of that pot is your state school fund. So the pot that they would give us is bigger, and so once they take off what the locals pay for property taxes, we would have a larger chunk that would come from the state school fund. So it would balance.
Great.
On your,
You're hitting all the right things. That's for sure.
on your in-district, out-of-district page, why is Blodgett separated out from Florence?
Because I pulled the data just by home city. That's just the city that they're in.
Oh,
Wilmington and Blodgett are in the district as city boundaries. Well, it's not Blodgett school, it's Blodgett's home address.
okay.
And
Then on the other one,
And we definitely have some Corvallis addresses that are full with students. I know teachers at the high school, she has a Corvallis address on the other side of Chapel.
yeah, so I
So-
know that some of those under the travel number are probably below.
okay. Just a typo on the page for the enrollment figures. The bottom one for last year, it said 23 school year instead of maybe the 22-23 school year.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oh, that's fine. I just haven't looked at that and said,
No, that's good.
I have one more question back to elementary school. We talked about creation of the modules. Does the student, the money per student, when we exceed capacity, is that enough money to cover additional space? Or do we need to start it? Does there need to be planning set aside for additional, like, I don't know if it's dollar for dollar, say the module costs 10,000 a month, if it had 20 students in there, they're not gonna cover, the money we get from 22 won't cover the module.
That is correct.
So is that something that we need to spend more time looking at in the future as the students haven't come in on these new developments, they're still building. Is there, just to me, when you look at 96%